There's a tablet, ancient, cracked, covered in dust. It sits behind glass in a museum in Oxford. Most people walk right past it, but the words carved into its surface describe something impossible. 8 kings. They ruled for 241,000 years, not combined, each. One king reigned for 43,200 years, another for 28,800. Then the tablet says this: the flood swept over the earth, and after the flood, the kings lived normal lifespans. 50 years, 30, 21. The same document, the same list, but 2 completely different worlds. Archaeologists call it the Sumerian King List, and no one knows why it was written this way. But recently, I read it, and what it found changes everything. The first fragment was discovered in 1906 in the ruins of Nippur, a Sumerian city buried under sand for thousands of years. The archaeologist who found it didn't understand what he was holding, a list of kings. That's all. But then more copies appeared. 18 versions, different cities, different time periods, all telling the same impossible story. Why would 18 different scribes, across hundreds of years, copy the same numbers that made no sense? Because they weren't just copying, they were preserving something. Parts of the list matched real history, real kings, real cities, but other parts felt like a myth, like someone was mixing memory with legend, and no one could explain where one ended and the other began. Until AI read what the scribes were actually doing. But before we talk about what AI found, we need to talk about them. The Anunnaki. You've probably heard the name. Ancient aliens, genetic experiments, conspiracy theories. But that's not what the Sumerians believed. In their world, the Anunnaki were judges, divine beings who controlled fate. They weren't creators, they were a council, 7 judges who decided the destiny of gods and men. In the myths, kingship itself came from them. It descended from heaven, given to the first cities, Eridu, Bad Tabira, Larak. The kings who ruled, they weren't gods, but they were chosen by gods. The line between myth and authority was intentionally blurred. But here's what no one talks about. After the flood, the Anunnaki almost disappear from the king list. Their names fade, their presence shrinks. It's like someone erased them from history. And AI found proof this wasn't an accident. Let's go back to the 8 kings. Before the flood, Alulim, Alalgar, and Menluana. Their reigns stretch across millennia, 36,000 years, 43,200 years, 28,800 years. Numbers so large they feel mythical. Then the tablet says this: the flood swept over. And after, the very next king rules for 1,200 years, still long, but shorter, then 960 years, then 840. The reigns keep shrinking, until eventually they match real human lifespans. 50 years, 30, 21. This isn't gradual evolution, it's a collapse. A sudden drop, as if the world itself changed, as if the rules of reality broke. And this pattern, it's not unique to Sumer. The Bible describes the same thing. Adam, Methuselah, Noah. Centuries before the flood, then after, normal. So what's happening here? AI found something the scribes tried to hide. Recently, researchers began feeding cuneiform tablets into AI systems. Not just the king list, everything. Every myth, every record, every fragment, thousands of tablets, and the AI started detecting patterns humans missed for 4,000 years. First, it found scribal edits, places where a scribe had crossed out a name, changed a number, added a line. Some sections were intentionally removed. Second, it found repeating structures, the same mythic formulas appearing across different cities, the same reign lengths, the same phrases, as if scribes were copying from a shared template. But here's where it gets disturbing. Third, the AI mapped the flood narratives across time. In earlier versions, the flood is barely mentioned, but in later copies, it becomes the centerpiece, the dividing line between 2 worlds. And fourth, the AI noticed the Anunnaki references almost disappear after the flood. Their names, their roles, their divine authority. Before the flood, everywhere. After, silent. Someone rewrote the story, edited out the gods, kept the kings. But why? Here's what historians think happened. The Sumerian King List wasn't history. Not entirely. It was political propaganda, written around 2100 BCE, during a period of unification. Kings wanted legitimacy, so they linked themselves to the past, to gods, to myth, to divine kingship. They took real rulers, Gilgamesh and Mebarajesi, and placed them on a list that stretched back to the beginning of time. They made their reign feel inevitable, chosen, eternal. But here's the haunting part. The scribes didn't just invent the past, they curated it. They decided which names to include, which gods to honor, which flood stories to emphasize. They built a narrative that served the present. And what the AI revealed is how carefully this was done. But even though we know it's propaganda, even though we know it was edited, there are pieces of the king list that match archaeological evidence. Real kings, real cities, real floods. So how much is invention and how much is memory? What were the Sumerians trying so hard to remember or forget? The AI can read the words, it can detect the patterns, it can see where the scribes made changes, but it can't tell us what they believed or why they wrote it this way. Maybe the numbers weren't meant to be literal, maybe they represented dynasties, eras, cycles of time, or maybe the Sumerians were describing something they didn't fully understand. A memory passed down for so long it became myth, a flood that really happened. Kings who became legends, and gods who were once something else. We can analyze the clay, decode the script, map the contradictions, but we can't hear the voices of the people who carved these names into stone. We can't ask them why. All we have are the words and the silence between them. The Sumerian King List is 4,000 years old. It's been translated, studied, debated, and yet it still holds its secrets. Maybe the oldest mystery isn't the kings, or the gods, or even the flood. Maybe it's the people who wrote their names in clay, hoping someone someday would find them and wonder